The geometry of discovery. Scene 1. Opening invitation. Stand beneath the night sky. The stars are scattered like points on an infinite canvas. Some of their light began its journey before there were humans to see it. We look up and we wonder, what does it mean to know? What does it mean to not know? As Heraclitus once said, much learning does not teach understanding. This is the geometry of discovery. Scene 2. Models and reality. Science gives us extraordinary power. We can predict eclipses, split atoms, measure time to billionths of a second. But all of this rests on models. And models are not reality. They are maps, not the territory. Einstein warned, as far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain. And as far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality. Models succeed because they are useful, not because they are identical to reality. Scene 3. Superposition as epistemic indeterminacy. In physics, superposition has a precise quantum meaning. Here we use it more broadly. It names the condition of the unknown. A closed box with Schrödinger's cat is not both alive and dead. It is simply unknown until discovery. Superposition is the epistemic indeterminacy of anything that has yet to cross our light cone. Anything that has yet to become part of epistemic relative past. Until then, it awaits our discovery if it does not decay to the point where no reconstruction is possible before we have a chance to discover it. Scene 4. 2 arrows of time. Backward ontological time is the truly infinite sum of the exact states of matter in all of the events in the history of the universe. Backward epistemic time is all that we have measured. Everything we have looked at, opened or studied and given a timestamp. Everything recorded. The future is entirely in superposition. Even if we can predict perfectly, the future remains unrealized in superposition, awaiting discovery. Now is the event horizon where superposition collapses to the threshold of discovery, where what we see becomes a part of our epistemic past. We imagine time as an arrow pointing forward. But this forward arrow is not the arrow of reality. It is the arrow of possibility. The backward arrow is the arrow of record. Forward, possibility. Backward, immutability. As Augustine confessed, what then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it, I know not. Scene 5. 2 times, epistemic and ontological. There are 2 kinds of time. Epistemic time, the time of knowledge. When information reaches us. Ontological time, the time of reality. When events actually happen. A star explodes. Ontologically, it happened millions of years ago. Epistemically, we discover it tonight. Scene 6. Discovery. Discovery is the crossing of the threshold. When the forward arrow collapses into the backward, when the unknown becomes record, sometimes immediate, sometimes delayed, always the act of overcoming isolation. Scene 7. Concurrency and immutability. We come now to a difficult pair of ideas. The concurrency of now and the immutability of the past. At first glance, they seem obvious. Of course, the past is fixed. Of course, the present is shared. But in philosophy and physics, nothing is so simple. Relativity tells us that simultaneity is relative. 2 observers in motion may disagree on what counts as now. This has led some to argue that concurrency is an illusion. And if concurrency falters, immutability may falter with it. For if there is no single shared threshold of now, then perhaps the past itself fractures into many versions. On the other hand, if the past is truly immutable, then there must be a single shared threshold through which all events pass. Otherwise, the archive of reality would splinter. Thus, concurrency and immutability are bound together. To prove one is to prove the other. And here lies the difficulty. These are not easy proofs. Whole libraries have been written. And still the debate continues. Fortunately, the golden goose of physics, from a practical point of view, is to be able to get a clock in orbit, to be able to predict a stationary clock on the ground. This achievement could lend the insight and equipment to formulate tests to provide strong evidence on these questions. We do not claim to settle the matter, but within the geometry of discovery, the model we have built suggests, and to some degree insists, that ontological now is concurrent, epistemic now is relative, the ontological past is immutable. The epistemic past is all that we have recorded, measured, mismeasured, misinterpreted, misrepresented, or reported. The epistemic past is all that we know and think we know. It's all been given a timestamp. What the maths and sciences do is to allow us to reconstruct a picture of the ontological past, so we can place a mirror on it and project forward into the future, so that perhaps the bottom of our boots can achieve simultaneity with the surface of another orb. Scene 8. When models say time stops. Physical models sometimes predict that time ends at the speed of light, at the edge of a black hole, at the Big Bang. But time does not stop. Reality does not end. What ends is connection. What ends is the flow of information. Scene 9. At the speed of light. A photon travels across the universe. From emission to absorption, no proper time elapses. Strictly speaking, photons have no rest frame. This is isolation. The photon's sealed within its own light cone. For us, the journey may take billions of years. For the photon, emission and absorption are one event. Scene 10. Spaghettification. Near a black hole, tidal forces stretch matter thin. Light cones tilt inward. Every path points deeper into the singularity. Within the horizon, even particles become causally isolated. From the outside, it looks as though time has stopped. But this is not time stopping. It is isolation. The breakdown of epistemic access. Scene 11. Isolation theory. When models predict that time stops, what they are really showing is isolation. Particles sealed within their own light cones. No information exchanged. No discovery possible. Ontologically, reality continues. Epistemically, the record ends. Discovery hypothesizes that within isolation there is no access to epistemic past. And so the past becomes irrelevant. Scene 12. Space as rotational hierarchy. A glass sits on the table. At rest. Still. But its stillness is only relative. The molecules inside it vibrate. The earth beneath it turns. The planet itself orbits the sun. The sun orbits the center of the galaxy. The galaxy drifts in a cluster, and the cluster in the larger web of the cosmos. Each motion nested within a greater rotation. Each hierarchy defining a scale of reality. The glass is not only on the table. It is carried by the turning of the earth, by the orbit of the sun, by the spiral of the galaxy. Space is not a flat stage. It is a rotational hierarchy. Stillness is an illusion. Rest is relative. Every object is part of a turning frame, nested within another, and another still. As Pascal once wrote, "The eternal silence of these infinite spaces terrifies me. But silence is not emptiness. It is the waiting of discovery. Scene 13, Case Studies. Lightning and thunder. Flash and thunder are one. Light arrives first, sound later. Discovery allows deduction to reconcile the delay, to make predictions about the distance to the strike. Starlight. A star exploded long ago. We discover it tonight. Isolation by distance. Discovery bridges the gulf between present and past. Carbon dating and fire. A long time ago, a creature died. Evidence of ancient fire was near. Millennia later, we burn it again. The flame reveals isotopes of time. Fire is not destruction. It is revelation about a past long buried. GPS. Satellites broadcast in their now. Relativity distorts their signals. If uncorrected, we are isolated from truth. Calibration reconciles relativity with concurrency. Scene 14, Synthesis. In every case, the pattern is the same. Isolation creates the illusion of broken or delayed time. Discovery restores the link between epistemic relativity and ontological immutability. Space itself is a hierarchy of rotations. Time itself is a geometry of discovery. Epilogue. Returning to the glass. A glass sits on the table, at rest, still. But now we know its stillness is only relative. It turns with the Earth. It orbits with the Sun. It drifts with the galaxy. The glass is not only on the table. It is carried by the hierarchy of rotations. It is part of the geometry of discovery. Behind it, the immutable archive of what has been. Before it, the superposition of what may be. And in this moment, as we look at the glass, as we look at the stars, as we look at ourselves, we are discoverers. The universe is not only what we know, it is also what we do not yet know. It is what we will never know and what we can never know. Time is our canvas of the universe as we measure change. Superposition is the science of the unknown. Thanks for watching Geometry of Discovery. Now we will see if I broke physics or fixed it, or if I'm just some guy with an AI and an opinion. For my next video, I will be stepping away from physics into the world of anthropology. Join me as I dive deep into the question, how long have we had math? If you are interested in my work, you can help me by subscribing to my channel and please like and share my video.